important to have a plan and understand what your goals are.
In fact, my camel out there is suffering right now with a broken back.
So I actually found Pepe when it was only a couple of hours old, and I'm like, oh, this is a funny meme.
Oh my god.
Yo! Who is this DJ?
The old man is swing trading over years at a time. And it's like, that's where the real money is made.
The answer is a permanent loss. With single-sided staking, you don't have to worry about impermanent loss.
If you're aware, if you're disciplined, you can hone that into further financial growth.
Financial freedom, to where you can actually live life and not have to be constantly living paycheck to paycheck. I mean, that's the ultimate goal, more or less, right?
And we are live. Welcome back to the channel, you filthy fucking degenerates. Second stream for the evening. So for those of you who did not catch the test stream yesterday on my personal channel, I am playing around with OBS, and so this is just going to give us another outlet to stream to you folks, since StreamYard doesn't have as many options. And so I figured that why not hop on after that fantastic episode that the team just did with Rags. So thank you, Brandon, for coming on our show and giving us your time as always. Always wonderful to get your insight, not just on crypto, but the overall landscape here in the West. So thank you so much again for doing that. Not going to be super long today. I just wanted to give you folks a little bit of an update because it is the second day of trading for the Ethereum ETFs. We actually had total inflows of 1 billion once again, but the market seems to be red. And I know some people in the chat, the Bull in our Telegram chat, he was kind of confused. It's like, bros, what's going on? I thought this is the time in the market where we're supposed to get super bullish because the Ethereum ETFs are trading. So what the heck is going on? Well, for those of you who don't know, the market is, so we went over this a little bit yesterday, but a lot of market participants are trying to front run what they think is going to happen with Mt. Gox. The trustee has moved a considerable amount of Bitcoin over like the last 48 hours. They moved Bitcoin over to Kraken, and then today, just like a few hours earlier, we got news that they moved another 5,000 Bitcoin or so over to Bitstamp. So part of the news that we went over yesterday was that a few days ago, the Mt. Gox trustee sent over a few $1 test transactions over to Bitstamp, and the speculation was that they were going to start disbursing some of that Bitcoin over to the creditors, and that's exactly what is happening, right? So let me actually go over and switch over to my X page so you can see kind of like the timeline of events, right? So this was over on Dave Ripley's page. This was yesterday. So Kraken FX has successfully distributed Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash from the Mt. Gox estate back to its creditors. Now, the total amount of Bitcoin that went over to Kraken was about 48,000 Bitcoin, right? And then today we got news that, let me see, scroll up here a little bit more. Here we go. Let's see. So this is the Kraken news. Let me see, where is the Bitstamp news? Do I have the Bitstamp news here? Let me go over to my bookmarks and see if it's there. Nope, don't have the Bitstamp news, but what I can pull up for you folks is I can pull out, here we go. I can actually pull out the data directly from Arkham Intelligence. So you guys know, if you've been following for a while, you know I love Arkham Intelligence. They do almost like all of the on-chain analytics that I like to see when it comes to following different wallets, seeing what they're doing on-chain. And so what you can see here is today, this was today, they moved about what is this? How many? Here we go. So how much Bitcoin? Let me see. Give me 1 second here. Let me actually pull up and see how much. See portfolio change. Token balance history. Here we go. Okay, so you can see that over the last 24 hours, right, they were holding 90,000 Bitcoin, but now their holdings have dropped to 85,000, right? So yesterday, July 23rd, they were holding 90,000 Bitcoin, and then today they are holding 85,000, right? So they sent another 5,000 Bitcoin over to Bitstamp. So in addition to the 48,000 Bitcoin that they sent over to Kraken, they have already offloaded about so quick math here. So 48,000 plus 5,000, 53,000 Bitcoin, right? And so what we know from the Mt. Gox trustee is they hold about 142,000 Bitcoin in total, right? That they were able to recover after the collapse. Now, the good news is that it seems like out of the 142,000 Bitcoin that the trustee holds, only about 75,000 Bitcoin are supposedly going to be disbursed to the creditors throughout the remainder of the year and probably sometime throughout 2025. Now, obviously that news can change at any minute, but as it stands, we know that the intention is to disburse about 75,000 or so Bitcoin to the trustees over the span of the next few months to the next year, right? And so if that is still the case, they have basically now gotten rid of more than a third of their stack, right? So if they've sent a total of 52,000 Bitcoin over to Kraken and to Bitstamp, that means that out of the 75,000 Bitcoin that they were meaning to disburse to their creditors, they have about, let's see, what is 7,000? So they have about 22,000 Bitcoin left. So they're more than 2/3 through that initial stack that's out of the way. Now, a lot of questions in people's mind right now is, well, does that mean that the overwhelming majority of that Bitcoin has been sold in the open market? And it seems like that's not the case. I mentioned earlier that a lot of other people in the market are watching the on-chain data, right? They're watching the movements from the Mt. Gox wallets, sending Bitcoin over to Kraken and then sending it to Bitstamp. And so people are trying to front run the market, selling now. So they're either trying to exit the market because they think that it's going to go back down to 15,000, or they're trying to exit the market at a relatively high price because we were trading around like 66,000 just a few hours ago, and then buy back in lower. Because they're anticipating that the creditors will sell off a portion, if not all of their Bitcoin. However, what I am going to show you right now is that's actually not the freaking case. So I want to bring your attention over to this post here by CryptoQuant, right? They have a chart here, and the X post basically says that the Mt. Gox refunds users choose to hodl over selling. Quote, significant increase in Bitcoin withdrawals from Kraken after the affected Mt. Gox users start receiving their BTC. This could be a positive signal indicating that they are not selling and preparing to hold their coins, moving them. Let's go ahead and expand this a little bit. Moving them from exchange to cold wallets. So the reason why this is it's speculative, right? But the reason why this is pretty bullish news is here's the order of events that usually happens preceding a sell event, right? And you'll notice this throughout, if you're here for the long term, you're going to notice this pattern repeat fairly frequently, right? What happens is when a wallet is going to sell, what they're going to do is, and this is true for almost like any major centralized exchange, any major entity that's holding a ton of assets, what they're going to do is they're going to move those assets from cold storage, and then they're going to move it over to a centralized exchange to sell them, right? To liquidate those assets and then sell them back into fiat. That is almost always the process that these entities go through. And it's probably the same process that you're going to go through when you finally decide to liquidate your assets, especially here in the West, because we don't have the option of offloading to a debit card like some other nations do, right? If you guys have been watching the show, you know that 1inch, for example, and let's see, it was 1inch and MetaMask that got the partnership with Visa, and they also got the partnership with MasterCard to create a debit card specifically for 1inch and MetaMask so that people can offload their assets directly onto that debit card, right? But we don't have that option here in the West just quite yet. Although there is actually something that we're going to go over on the Sunday episode that might be changing very soon. And so what options do these large entities have? Well, they have to send their assets from cold storage onto a centralized exchange in order to liquidate those assets for fiat. Now, what does CryptoQuant, which is another good resource, what are they saying? Well, if we go ahead and actually blow up, I'm going to blow up this chart here for you. What we have here is a chart of the total outflows of Bitcoin from the exchange, Kraken in this case, out of the exchange into cold wallets. So you notice that over the past 24 hours, this yellow line here, right, is the outflows of Bitcoin from the exchange, right? And you can see that they have over this is a, you know, even though it's in a shorter time frame, like you can see that this is a fairly parabolic increase in the amount of outflows from Kraken the exchange into cold wallets. So what does that mean? Well, this indicates the opposite. As opposed to people moving their assets onto exchange to liquidate them, it seems like from what CryptoQuant is saying, that the people that received their Bitcoin from Mt. Gox, instead of selling them in the exchange, what they did was instead they offboarded the Bitcoin into cold storage, right? Either to cold storage or maybe their own personal hot wallets. And so this selling pressure that you're seeing now does not seem to be from the people, from the creditors who just got their Bitcoin, right? So they're like 66,000 is a small stepping stone on the way to $100,000 Bitcoin. And so like we don't care about the short-term like volatility to the downside. We're going to keep holding our Bitcoin and we're going to sell on top of your heads. You could sell out of the market now if you want, and we'll sell when it gets to $250,000. And so the volatility that you're seeing now to the downside is more than likely from people trying to front run. They're front running the assumption that people who receive their coins from Mt. Gox are going to sell them immediately. And it seems like from the data that CryptoQuant is posting right now, that just doesn't seem to be the case, right? So good news. Let's actually go ahead and double check the chat. So you can see that I'm like, I'm not totally set up yet because I don't have the chat pulled up on my sidebar here. I have to look at the chat through my phone. So let's go ahead and do some chat shout outs. Mr. Will Stevens. I was about to call him Will Smith. No, he is not Will Smith. He is Mr. Will Stevenson. From Moonpilled Rational Optics, he says, likewise, was on a Zoom call tonight. I am free now. Glad to have you, brother. He says, got my cran apple and whiskey for this. Cassie, hello, Mrs. Producer. Glad to have you on it. And then Mr. Will Stevenson saying to stop liking that stop liking that smash button. But glad to have all of you here who are watching live with us. So that's the news in relation to what's happening with the Bitcoin from Mt. Gox that has been basically sent over to Kraken and to Bitstamp. So from the data that we're looking at now, it seems like once again these people are not selling. These are just market participants just trying to front run the market, assuming that people are going to sell off. Well, for the most part, they have been wrong. Let's actually go ahead. Before we go over to the charts, I actually want to go, let me see. Is this it? Here we go. Yep. Let's close out the Arkham. So I just actually wanted to go over the Bitcoin and spot Ethereum inflows. So what you can see here, it's a big bar on the bottom left screen here for the Ethereum ETF inflows because, well, you know, they've only had 2 days. So this is all the data that they can present. So as you, the total cumulative net inflows for the Ethereum ETFs for the day just surpassed 100 million. The total inflows were 1 billion, but net was 100 million. As you can see here, right, almost all of the negative selling pressure is coming from the ETH Grayscale spot Ethereum ETFs. This is not surprising. So let's actually go over and take a look at the Bitcoin spot Ethereum ETFs total inflows, right? We actually had our first red day after like this is like about 2 weeks worth of green inflows, right? We actually had our first red day, and wouldn't you know it, most of that selling once again coming from the GBTC Grayscale Bitcoin ETF. This is not surprising, and the reason why that's not surprising is because, and I explained this a little bit earlier in the chat, but what you have to realize is that when people were holding the Grayscale Bitcoin and they were also holding the Grayscale Ethereum, right, they could not sell those things in the spot market to take advantage of the discount, right? A lot of people were buying into the Grayscale BTC because they had a Grayscale premium, right? They basically bought that at the discount. So like, for example, at the very bottom of the bear market in 2022, when spot Bitcoin prices hit like 15,500, people were still getting Grayscale Bitcoin at a discount, probably like at around $10,000 Bitcoin, right? Or sometimes lower, because that premium at certain points in time shot up to about like 50%. However, the catch was you couldn't liquidate that and take advantage of your discount when the price ran up because there wasn't any liquidity for that, right? You had to sell the shares. It wasn't like a spot market where you could just sell it at an open exchange, right? At a centralized exchange. However, once they transitioned from a GBTC and Grayscale Ethereum into an ETF, now suddenly they have liquidity that they can take advantage of in order to sell out of those assets, right? And so that's why you saw that in the beginning with Grayscale, and that's why you're seeing it now with Ethereum, right? When the Grayscale Ethereum transformed into the ETF, now suddenly they have liquidity where these people can sell out of it, right? So this is just people taking advantage of the price appreciation that they basically gained, right? When they bought. Oh, give me 1 second. I'll be right back. There's somebody at the door. I think that's the waifu. Yeah, that was the waifu. So I am back now. But yeah, so now that the ETH Grayscale transformed into an ETF, they can take advantage of that liquidity in the market and sell out of it, right? And so this was always expected. So this is not something that you guys should be surprised, because it's following verbatim what happened with Grayscale when the GBTC transformed into an ETF. And so what can we expect in terms of the price action? Well, let's go ahead and go over to the charts. This is going to be a little bit of review for you folks who caught the stream yesterday. But what you can see here is this dip has already reached my target box, right? This box basically encompasses the fib levels between 236 and 0.5 fib levels taken from this swing low to our swing high, right? You could see that this box coincides with the 0.236 to 0.5 fibs. Now, the reason why I think that this is just a short-term downwards price action and not a larger correction is I am of the belief that this 5-wave impulse to the upside is not yet complete, right? And the reason why I think that is because if this 5-wave impulse was already complete, right, the alternative scenario would be a 1, 2 in, 3 here, 4 here, and here is your 5. And now we're looking for a larger correction downwards, probably around to the bottom of this range at about $60,000 Bitcoin. However, the reason why I don't think this is the case is because if this was your local wave 4, what you have to realize is that at the minimum, your wave 4 should hit the 0.236 fib level. And what you could see here, if you zoom in, is we got close to that 0.236 fib, but we did not touch it at $63,135 for Bitcoin, right? And so because we did not hit the minimum fibs required for a wave 4, my thesis is that this is still a 5-wave impulse to the upside looking to complete. And we are trying to find the bottom of that wave 4. If you could see the correction here, well, look at that. We hit our target box, which means what? The dump could be over, right? The dump could be over, and we're going to head up over the next few days or so, or we could still keep heading to the downside somewhere around this target box here. I think that at the very lowest, what we're probably going to get is, let me fix that fib level, right? What we're probably going to get in terms of downwards price action, we're probably going to find a lot of support around this 0.382 level, right? The reason why that is that the 382 is one of your most common retracements from a wave 4. And then also, you could see that it coincides with a lot of horizontal resistance, right? We have horizontal resistance here, and then we have some short-term price action during this move on the way up. So we have strong horizontal support here, as well as the 0.382 fib. So I think that if we are still going to go head towards a bit lower price action, we're probably going to find support here at around 63,700 Bitcoin or so, right? At the very lowest, probably $63,250. Now, at the maximum, I think we hit this 0.5 fib here at about 62,300 Bitcoin before we head for that next move up. Right, and if you guys were here for the analysis, I think we're probably going to hit resistance here at the very top of this range. But if we punch right through that, we're going to head anywhere between $75,000 to $76,000 Bitcoin. Right, so I am of the belief. So my personal thesis is that this 5-wave impulse to the upside is not yet over, and that we are just heading into this wave 4 correction, trying to find a bottom. Right. So I don't expect us to head back down to 62,000 to 60,000 Bitcoin just yet. I think we have a potential to retest those levels once this impulse is completed, but that's yet to be determined, right? It's really going to depend how high this next leg up goes before we can determine the levels for the correction on the downside. Let's see if we have any questions from the chat. Just checking in. Let's see. Moonpilled Rational Optics says, so the next 2 to 3 weeks are the best buy opportunity. Moonpilled, I would say if we head back down to the 382 fib of about 63,700, you could put some buys in there. And this is if you're trading, right? This is one of my personal strategies, right? Because I'm swing trading Solana at the moment as well. If my thesis is correct and we head up to about $70,000 Bitcoins, Solana is probably going to make a run once again for all-time highs, right? If we punch through $70,000 Bitcoin and head towards 75 to 76, I think Solana within the next few weeks or so is in a good position to get close to, if not try and contend with the all-time high. So I'm swing trading Solana at the moment. So I would say when we head down to about 63.7 Bitcoin, that's a good opportunity to get more buys in, right? But I believe that we are going to have another buy opportunity once this initial impulse is over and head back down towards that correction, right? That macro wave 2 of the wave 5. So yes, the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think it's still a pretty good time to be dollar cost averaging into the market. Large, good to see you, brother. Centurion, good to see you as well. Round 2 with the Degens. Yes, sir, it is round 2. Just enjoying my lunch break with you guys. Oh my God, bro. Do you have the graveyard shift, Large? I'm not sure what time zone you're in. I'm just assuming that you're that you got the graveyard shift, which is why you're having your lunch now. It's like almost 8 o'clock here in Arizona. So, so that is it for the analysis for Bitcoin. Like I said, a little bit of a short stream here today. Just wanted to give you folks a little bit of a market update because people are always wondering, hey, you know, the Ethereum ETFs are live. Why aren't we at $10,000 Ethereum just yet? So I figured I'd give you guys the lowdown on what's happening on-chain because we can always see. This is why I like learning about on-chain data and keeping track of on-chain analytics, is because they're telling you what is actually happening, right? And, you know, like I mentioned earlier in the stream, it seems like the people who just got their Bitcoin, they're not selling it spot. What they're doing is they're transferring it back to their very own cold wallets, right, or hot wallets, which is actually a good sign because they're, you know, they've been hodling for the past 10 years. They're not going to sell at $60,000 Bitcoin, man. They're waiting for $250,000 before making any large sells. So that's basically it. What I had, that's all that I had for today. Let me see if there's any other questions in the chat. Let me actually see if there's any questions in the Telegram. Nope, no questions in the Telegram. So yeah, as always, guys, thank you so very much for joining me this wonderful evening. And thank you for tuning in to 2 streams this evening from the DGen Roundtable. As always, we know that time is your most valuable asset, so we do appreciate that you spend some of that time here with us. As always, remember, DGen responsibly. Like the damn video. Comment, subscribe, become part of the capital class, buy Bitcoin, buy Ethereum. Not financial advice, but you know, because as our favorite Fed, it's actually my favorite's not Jerome Powell. My favorite is the infinite money printer guy. But yeah, there's an infinite amount of money at the Federal Reserve, and you can't have any of it. So, as always, thank you for joining me this evening, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care, guys.
is safe. Your banks are safe. There's enough cash in the financial system, and there is an infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve. An infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
An infinite amount of cash at the Federal Reserve.
Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need somebody to love? Wouldn't you love somebody to love? You better find somebody to love. Don't you want somebody to love? Don't you need.
Right, like the point is, if you have the superior asset, it's going up forever, Laura. Forever.
Right. I mean. Right, but I mean, we can all look Bitcoin sort of as
forever, Laura.
People that use fiat currency as a store of value, we call them poor. We call them poor. People that use fiat currency, we call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. We call them poor. There's a name for them.